Hey everybody, this is Robert People of RobertPeople.com, and you are listening to People's Court. Thanks for tuning in. Today is Monday, March 11th, 2019. Hope everyone had a wonderful day today. Today I want to talk a little bit about teachers, underpaid, undervalued. Today I took part in a march to the Capitol here in Austin, Texas. There was approximately, I want to say about probably close to 10,000 educators throughout the state of Texas or from other areas of Texas who took part in this march. And a lot of stories were told. Now here in Central Texas, I am running for a position on the school board. And it was a very enlightening trip for me because I got to speak with quite a few educators to get their perspectives on basically where they are and where they see things are. Obviously, this is not just a Texas issue. Throughout the country, teachers are underpaid, undervalued, not respected. And this has been a problem for a while. Now, here, the teachers in this district, at least, teachers received a 2% pay raise. In speaking to certain individuals, the consensus, or at least the overall request, was 4%. And I learned so much. I mean, there's so much I can share right now. But ultimately, there was just, I mean, it was extremely enlightening, but disheartening at the same time. And let me explain why. For starters, when I spoke to, well, first of all, from here, we rode a bus to Austin, from Killeen to Austin. And in talking to a few individuals, a few of the educators on the bus on the way up, and even throughout the day, one thing that happened was that just about all of them were surprised. They looked surprised, or at least that's the vibe I got from them, once they realized that I was running, once I told them I was running for the school board. I told my name, and they were nice to meet you, but when I said I'm running for a position on the school board, their faces kind of just lit up, and they started talking. And I don't believe that I spoke to one person after introducing myself and stating that I was running for the school board, for a place on the school board. I don't believe anybody spoke to me or talked to me for less than 15 minutes. And while that's incredibly encouraging that they were all willing to speak to me that way, again, disheartening, because if they're all needing to talk to me like that, that means they weren't being listened to. They haven't been listened to. They've likely voiced these complaints many times, and they were ignored. Several stories were told. Once we got into the afternoon, quite a few educators got up on the podium once everyone was brought together, and they spoke. And one individual, I mean, again, a lot of great stories out there, but I say great, they're sad stories, but I mean, it was good. It was good to hear, because I had it in my mind already that it was rough for teachers. I already knew that, but I had no idea how bad it actually was until speaking to these educators in person. Okay, I'm jumping around a little bit, so let me come back. I learned quite a bit that I either did not know or misunderstood, or simply just was incorrect in my thinking, or something I heard that was not right. I spoke to teachers, bus drivers, cafeteria staff, custodians. They all were, along with other supporters, these are all the folks that took part. And, again, this teacher salaries debate, this has been going on for a good while. And these educators are fed up. My goodness, I can go so many different places with this, but when I listen to these educators, talk to me about what their problems are, it's not so much even what they spoke about that really spoke to me. It was the looks on their faces, the tone in their voices. Some were energetic. Some were encouraged because, here we are, we're taking another step and really being able to make a difference, to make change. And so many others just had this dejected look, this, they're fed up, they're tired. They're just exhausted. Here we go. We're still trying this, but this might be the last time I'm going to try this thing because I'm just done. And you're talking about teachers, educators, the people responsible for our children when we don't have them. And they have to beg to be paid a decent living. I spoke about this a few episodes back, but I wanted to come back after engaging with teachers and just being around them today. And again, it was so enlightening. One teacher was in tears through most of her speech, most of her testimony. She was in tears. In her case, in trying to recall a lot of what she said, she wasn't able to start. It took her a while to get started. The crowd encouraged her to go ahead and tell her story. And this is what we needed to hear. We need to hear these stories of the teachers who struggle the most. Because this person, let me explain what she spoke about. She was 10. She had been a teacher for 10 years. And along with the lousy pay they're receiving, a lot of medical issues came up for her. And we're not talking about someone 50, 60 years old. We're talking someone, just from my estimation, mid-30s, early to mid-30s. And again, medical issues. And she got to a place where the co-pays got so high. Deductibles got so high that after a while, she had to cancel her insurance. Because she just couldn't afford it anymore. And I mean, it was heartbreaking. Because again, she's responsible for our children when they're not with us. And this was someone who was tired. This is someone who's had enough. And there's no telling what type of energy she had up there. This just explains one of the teachers. Or this is one story of many, probably, sadly, similar stories. I mean, she was, again, most of her speaking, she was in tears. And we did the best we could in trying to encourage her. Goodness. Another cafeteria worker got up there. She was a little more outspoken, but we needed that too. She wanted to make sure, and we're on the Capitol steps. We're on the steps of the Capitol here, and she made it very clear where she stood. One thing that struck me with what she spoke about was simply this, that she didn't get, or her, the cafeteria staff did not receive a pay raise as the teachers did recently. And the message she got was that it was because they're not essential personnel. Now, I don't know at what point those who feed our children are not essential. If they're non-essential, why does the job exist? This is what she said. If they're not essential, why does the job exist? Why does somebody need to do the job? You can say the same about custodians. And custodians, that's always a job we look down upon. Yeah, we frown about. We frown on that job. But it's interesting how we pay no attention to them until they don't do that job. We know they exist when they don't do that job, don't we? You walk into any building, the first thing you notice is if it's clean, whether or not it's clean, right? In that case, now we can acknowledge and recognize the custodians then. But every other time we say, whatever, not essential. And the argument from the ignorant might be, well, non-essential because anybody can do that job. Anybody can do the job, but anybody's not doing the job. That's my response to you on that one. Anybody's not doing it. Because a lot of us, meaning Americans, are too proud to clean up behind other people. We're too proud to do a job that society, again, frowns upon. So while, it might be possible that anybody can do it, anybody's not doing it. And these are the people who decide to step up and say, you know what? I'm not worried about my pride right now. The job needs to be done and I'm going to do it. They deserve better. It's near and dear to me because this is not educators. They should not be the ones struggling to make a living, having to get 2 and 3 jobs just to pay their bills. Now, we also went and spoke with our district representative here, and I cannot remember his name, but that was the purpose of this visit also. But again, I learned so much, and it's a lot to explain here. But really, when it comes down to it, there's no excuse that our teachers are having to struggle this much. None. Our teachers are educators in general. They shouldn't have to beg to earn a living, a decent living, while they're being fed garbage excuses for why they can't get more than a 2% pay raise. And you can't tell me from 2 to 4% that's going to break the district. And if it is, I don't think that's the teacher's problem. Along with that, I went thinking, and honestly, I went in thinking that salaries was the only issue. But here, there's something called STAR testing, and that is a hot mess. And I know very few people who support that. And I'm not going to get into exactly how it all works, but for those of you who know about STAR testing, especially if any teachers are listening to this who live in Texas, you already know. I'm not telling you anything that you're unaware of. And everything is driven by money. Everything is driven by money. And I think as we continue to dig, that's what we're going to find out in just about every case. But when I'm looking around, there was nothing better, to end this on a positive note. There was nothing better than to see that kind of solidarity. See all those people there for a good cause and willing to stand up for not only themselves, but their students. You heard people speak more about, I heard folks speak more about, these educators speak more about the students than themselves. They want to be able to focus on their students. You might say, well, if they're talking about a pay raise, they're not focused on the students, they're focused on themselves. They want to be able to give their all to their students. Let's be clear on that. They want to be able to give everything to those kids. And we're in a place right now where the ones who deal with our children, the ones who have them the most, are respected the least. Bus drivers get our children to school. Because guess what? We as parents, we're at work, right? That's what we need the bus drivers for. Cafeteria staff, got to feed them, right? Kids have to eat throughout the day. That's why they exist. Teachers are not just reading from a curriculum. They're teaching kids not only, basic math, basic reading, basic science. They're teaching social skills and so much more. Why are they the ones pushed to the back burner in favor of the superintendent getting another raise of more than $40,000, almost what a teacher's salary is? And what's interesting is that, especially here, that was the pay raise the superintendent received. The superintendent received the pay raise here, and the reason for that was to line up, to be in line with with superintendents pay in other districts of the same size. But what's interesting is the educators don't receive a pay raise in that way. So we're okay paying the superintendent to line up with everyone else, but not the educators. The educators are well below the average. So what we're effectively saying is, we're okay losing teachers, and we are losing them. That might not be what's briefed to the school board, but we are losing them. And we're fine with that. We just want to make sure we keep the superintendent happy. That's the wrong answer. If I want to make anybody, if I want to make anybody happy, it's the educators, it's the teachers, the ones who are making sure our kids get to school, the ones who are feeding them, the ones who are responsible for them throughout the day. And do so much more than just exist. I mean, really, it was heart-wrenching to hear some of these stories, but encouraging at the same time. And for them to appreciate me being there, it told me two things. It said, for one, it allowed me to learn, what's going on with them. But it also told me that with me being the only school board candidate, school board anything, even the school board members didn't show up that I know of. The folks who need the care just don't. And we got to do better than that. When I'm on the school board, we will. It's that simple. I have two children. One in middle school, one in elementary school. And I want the teachers who are dealing with them, to be able to focus on being able to teach them. Not just to teach them, but to take care of them. The educators, to make sure they are taken care of. And if all they're asking for is a measly little 4%, in the grand scope of things, it's measly. And those who are paid hourly, a measly little $4 per hour additional, which I learned as well today. That's all they're asking for? So they can pay attention and do their jobs effectively? Those are my babies in there. That's all they need. Give it to them. The money's there. The money is there. Give it to them. They're not asking for extra. They're asking for what they deserve. Thank y'all for listening. Again, this is Robert People of robertpeople.com. Have a good night.